One day, a Steam user called Dixalot, who you ran into on a server recently, adds you and messages you, warning you of something called the Blight. Thinking him to be just out of his mind or trolling you, you ignore him. Bored that same night, you boot up TF2 and search for a match, eventually loading into 2 Fort. Feeling silly that day, you choose Soldier, armed with the Cow Mangler, but otherwise the default loadout. Spawning on the red team, the score is 2 red, 0 blue. Easy game. Nice, you think as you leave spawn, turn left and head to the sniping area. Stopping as you turn into it, you look at the right wall for sniper dots. All clear. Peeking carefully around the left side, no snipers. It's clear. Taking the opportunity, you emerge from cover, charge up the Mangler, and rocket jump across, landing on top of the bridge but idiotically taking fire damage, leaving you around half health. Regretting your decision and looking around as you continue to approach Blue Base, you notice it's quiet. No beeping of sentries, no people asking for healing, no gunfire, no chat, just quiet. You dismiss it thinking, everyone's probably in intel, probably a nest down there too, and continue, reaching the end of the bridge roof. Stopping at the end as you look down and prepare to rocket jump again, this time with left click, you see something in the corner of your eye. Confused, looking at it, you see a lone blue scout standing in the right blue doorway, banging his head against the doorframe repeatedly. Befuddled, you stare for a moment, thinking to yourself, what kind of taunt is that? Before firing at him, the shot instantly atomizing him. Turning back to the sniper perches of blue, you rocket jump across, landing on the right platform near blue spawn, and prepare yourself before heading in. Taking the corner into blue's main room outside spawn, you see a red medic called Hectoron heading into the blue intel via the spiral stairs. You call out to him in voice chat, "Hey medic, heal me, I'll clear out any sentries down there." He stops, walks backwards, looks at you and says, "Yeah," in a monotone voice. You reply, "Alright, let's go." He walks over and begins healing with his quick fix while you approach the stairs. Just after going through the doorway, you see a red heavy with a gibbous, pyrovision goggles and his fists out, named Scuba Master 96. He looks at you and says in chat, "We go together." You reply, "Sure thing bud," and head down, both following you. Making your way to the 2 hallways of the intel area with no resistance, you stop and listen out for sentry beeping. Nothing. You say, "No sentries, easy game lads," in voice chat. Hector replies, "Yeah." Choosing the left hallway, you go down and in, medic following. Emerging into the room, it's normal, just empty, no enemies. You confidently, happily say, "Haha, easy cap," and approach the intel table. As you do, you quickly realize the intel is missing, but the indicator on your HUD is pointing right at the table. Looking around, confused, you see nobody and no intel, but Scuba and Hector are standing in both hallways. Gazing around again, you then hear a strange, fast repeating thudding sound. What is it? You don't know, but it's close. It's nowhere around you, so you look down, thinking something might just be weird with where you're standing, but then you look upwards and you see a scout. A red one, sprawled out on the ceiling with long unnatural limbs that almost resemble roots more than arms or legs. The blue intel is on this thing's back, long deformed hands growing out of its extremely distended mouth, reaching down towards you as they squirm and writhe. Caught entirely off guard, you back away and turn, only to see Scuba and Hector standing there, weapons on the floor, in a way that's just wrong, blocking the hallways. Unhinging and opening their maws, they emit disgusting choking sounds over the microphone as hands rise up from within their throats, and they begin to rush towards you, their fingers stretching, warping and growing like cancerous tendrils as they charge onwards. Horrified, you panic, charge a mangler shot prepared to defend yourself, but you spasm as you aim and accidentally atomize yourself just before they can reach you. Bewildered, you are now in the respawn queue spectator mode, watching your deformed teammates rush to where you were and look around, them now groaning and writhing in what can only be described as rage. Scared out of your mind, you pause and try to exit the match, but it doesn't work. Alt F4, nothing. Task Manager, nothing. Trying to stand up as to unplug your PC, you find yourself unable to move. Trying to turn your head, your camera only rotates. Panicking harder, you look around and realize the timer has just hit 10 seconds until you respawn. Having no idea what to do, you frantically switch perspectives into spectator mode, only to catch a glimpse of something putrid, awful and vile. A hulking mass of conjoined blue and red players emerges from the sewers of the blue base under the bridge and crawls towards the red sewer. This gigantic meatball of players screaming and writhing through the voice chat as its countless limbs carry it onwards. You can feel the torment in their voices shake its way through your very core. and all you can do is watch as the mass accelerates through the sewers, swiftly exiting and making its way towards spawn. The 10 seconds passes, and you respawn in main spawn, the 2 glass doors now ahead of you. Totally paralyzed with fear, you stand still, the choir of agonized and tormented screams very quickly getting closer and louder. In a mere few seconds, the bellowing gargantuan mass is orderly right outside spawn. You can hear it violently pounding, crashing its countless limbs against the iron shutters. The choir of misery screams and writhes for what feels like an eternity, only to cease without warning. A few seconds later, Scuba Master enters the restock room, arms by his sides. You getting a brief glance at the horrific biomass behind the shutters as its countless faces and eyes stare towards you. He walks over to the glass doors and stops, places his hand gently against them. He utters, "Alright, let's go," in your own voice, and smiles at you. Culling his placed hand into a fist, he pulls it back and slams it into the glass door, proceeding to pound on it over and over, becoming increasingly violent with each hit. Each hit then growing louder, faster, harder than the last, the volume swiftly becoming unbearable. Dropping the mangler to the floor, you cover your ears. This continues for a few moments, then suddenly stops. Looking up at the now quiet Heavy, you quickly realize you can feel your hands against your head. Looking down, you see Soldier's hands as your own. You're standing in the 2-fort spawn room, and you can see his boots, his legs below you. Unsure what to even make of this or how to react, you look back up at him. He's staring at you, still smiling. He looks down, grabs the handles of the doors and furiously pulls for a moment, but they don't budge. Tilting his head curiously, like an animal contemplating its next move, he then looks back at you and lets go of the doors. He tilts his head to the side a few times, as if processing the situation, while all you can do is stand and stare at this thing before you. Without warning, the medic, Hector, enters the restock room too, the doors momentarily opening, giving you a very brief view of the behemoth outside. Its sheer mass and bulk is blocking off any and all escape. The medic walks over to the Heavy. He looks at you, and both just stare at you for a moment. The Heavy turns to the medic, looks at you, tilts his head again, then back at the medic. In return, the medic looks at him, at you, and without warning raises his hands, grabs his own head, and with a loud, sickening, blood-curdling crunch, violently twists his own head, loudly snapping his own neck. His arms drop lifeless, body falling to the floor. The Heavy looks back at you and says, "We go together," as his fingers extend again and spasm violently. In that moment it hits you, what's about to happen. Anxiety taking over, but thinking quickly, you open the class menu and switch to Spy. Armed with a dead ringer, you activate it and killbind, hoping to trick the abominate before you. But you forgot how it works and drop lifeless to the ground. Just after, you see the warped medic spawn in the respawn room and realize, I'm fucked. The realization that you're doomed hitting you like a tidal wave. As the timer counts down, all you can see is the medic, waiting for you, glaring at your body. Panic and fear reaching their peak as the timer nears to 0. Eventually, time runs out, you respawn and instantly see him ahead of you. Before you can even react, all 10 fingers ensnare you and plunge into your flesh. A hand ruptures from his maw and forces itself down your own throat, each finger ripping and rending its way through your flesh and guts as it drives deeper. The pain is overwhelming. You can't even scream as this thing bores its way through your body. Before you can even process the pain fully, reality, the game itself around you, begins to melt and wither. You feel your very soul being dragged away, darkness overtaking you. The next time you open your eyes, you have too many joints in your left arm. Your right leg is growing from where your right shoulder should be and is twice as long. Your torso and organs tangled among the limbs and bodies of others. Your body warped to an otherworldly blueprint. And all you can see is part of the tunnel on Badwater, or something similar, as you and the others in the ungodly mass scream and haul itself down towards the cart, where a medic and Heavy try fighting back in their last stand, only to become one with the choir of tormented souls. All at the drive of something vile as it compels your form against your will. The Blight has claimed you and will do the same to the rest. That, my viewers, describes the average encounter with the Serverblight. But before we get into the analytical portion of this video, to respect the wishes of the series' main creator, Derfish06 Studios, we'll be focusing on not just the Blight and lore, but also the themes and characters. As to why, the creator, Derfish, hates the lore-centric way of consuming media, where people care more about having encyclopedic knowledge of something, rather than actually understanding its emotions and themes. He also hates Pyrocynical's video on Serverblight because it's just yapping about shit that's unrelated to the series and it's way too long. Derf and his friend have also never watched The Thing, which Pyrocynical continuously connects to Serverblight, at the time of writing this at least, and even commented about it under his video, which I'll be showing on screen now. And personally, I agree with Durf. Pyro's video on Serverblight is, in my opinion, complete and utter slop. He will spend an hour explaining the most basic crap, then repeat himself 30 times because his audience has the attention span of a goldfish with dementia. Also, for further elaboration, I've spoken extensively to Durf himself as to make sure everything I tell you in this video is as accurate as possible, albeit do keep in mind this could all be subject to change with future episodes. In fact, funnily enough, during our chats, Durf jokingly talked about me seeking the, and I quote, true lore, end quote, and we joked about Serverblight ending up like the FNAF series. Also, that story I told you at the start is an idea I went out of my way to give him, which he may likely make into a full episode, so if he's going to, we'll probably see in a month, considering that's how long it takes for him to make an episode on average. But anyway, starting with the characters, first we have the star of the show, the Blight itself. As to what the Blight is exactly, we have no idea. It's intentionally left ambiguous, albeit I have spoken to Durf himself and we have some context. Basically, the Blight's existence is alien to our understanding, but not necessarily extraterrestrial. It's an incomprehensible hive mind basically, but what exactly it is we do not know. Albeit it is bound to a form that's limited by the rules of TF2, hence why it can't leave the map or go into kill zones, making those the only escape from it. And that's why in my intro story, Scuba was unable to leverage open the glass doors as they only open one way. Anyway, personality wise, the Blight is clearly sentient and sadistic, the medic smile at the end of episode 3 when the new players join, the torture of Classic by the giant buzzsaw in episode 6, and it's savouring the resistance of the guy in the puppet video too. It wants its prey to struggle and it actively enjoys it. It has no moral lines it will not cross, evident from it using Johnny, who is just a child, as bait in episode 3 and it torturing Classic. And it's curious by nature, actively improving its hunting methods and manipulation tactics by any means. It also intentionally does not use weapons to attack. It has to reveal itself to infect someone, but specifically as to why it does this, Durf himself said it does not use weapons because it's not scary. Imagine if Michael Myers pulled out a gun. It'd be stupid, not scary. Which is completely fair. I feel like Michael Myers pulling out a gun would belong in a scary movie parody. Man, speaking of scary movie, man, that's a throwback. Yeah, you know those movies? The specific one where Ghostface goes, "What's up?" because he's high on that Zaza. Man, that movie came out in 2000. I feel old! But yeah, not to detract from the point too much, it doesn't use weapons because it's not scary. However, true motive-wise, the Blight is a eldritch horror in quotations, whose true motives are supposed to remain ambiguous as it's incomprehensible to humans by nature, albeit it's certainly cruel and knows what it's doing. Appearance and design wise, I'll let you know now, the Blight is not based off any pre-existing direct body horror. It's not based off a singular thing, it's all body horror as one thing generally with little ideas from everywhere. And the Blight is constantly making new forms, there's no special infected forms like Left 4 Dead, if anything its masses are best described as a digital cancer. And plot-wise, not only is the Blight the central antagonist and driving force, Durf himself said this series is basically an arms race between players and the Blight, both trying to outthink one another. Dixlot, Aaron and his war against it being the vessel for this arms race plotline. Also, being touched is instantly infected, game over, there is no coming back from that. Durf himself said this is definitive or else it undermines the risk the Blight poses. And abilities wise, we have likely not seen its full power, but we know its mere presence can alter the game, disabling kill binds, adding reflections to water, etc. And anyone familiar with the series will know it can infect, absorb and reform people as it wishes. It also seems to have a degree of paranormal capability, given how it appears behind the guy in episode 5 as a heavy, and we see the shadow of a scout arm in reflection while Aaron is having a breakdown at the end. It can also straight up steal your soul and kill you IRL, as we see at the end of episode 5. It also knows how the game works, using a single finger to stop the point being captured in assimilation. And it affects people indirectly, people picking up mannerisms from their characters the longer they are around the Blight. Evident from Aaron and how his dialogue changes. For example, him saying "Go Soldier" to Bread after Bread kills the pyro reaching for him in reflection. This is something Soldier himself would say. The Blight can also imitate taunts but not directly use them, hence why God's God failed to use the high five taunt properly and the other soldier did a scout exclusive taunt. The Blight infected can also see spies on their own team. And everyone assimilated by the Blight is fully fucking aware and in absolute agony as it controls them directly, Dixlot certainly knowing about this at this point. Speaking of the aforementioned Dixlot, known as Aaron, he's the series' main character and the one we're going to talk about next, as most episodes after 3 are connected to him. The effects of episode 1 had a very bad effect on him, which is made magnitudes worse in episode 3 when the Blight finds him again. He proceeded to take refuge in community due to the events in episode 1's casual match, albeit this would offer him no comfort later in episode 3, after being aforementionedly found. After losing his friend Hectoron in episode 3, who was actually the medic in my little story there, Aaron seems to dedicate himself to warning others about the Blight and teaching people how to escape it. However, this loss of Hector has had a deep effect on him, as at the end of episode 6 we see him buckle over and cry after reading his text to Matt and finally realizing that he's gone. The reveal of Matt's infection in episode 3 being the exact moment that would kickstart his decline, him feeling like something was off beforehand definitely adding into this too. He also grows increasingly distressed as the series progresses, showing how the Blight is slowly taking a mental toll on him merely by being near him. Him killing directions in episode 1 leading to him getting infected, also feeding into this growing emotional turmoil when he finds out about it. He also certainly lies to Brett in reflection about not having met directions, probably to not upset him. And he can also definitely feel its pull, so can Bread Dolphin as we see in their Steam messages. He also vote kicks the infected Scuba Master 96 swiftly, showcasing his fast reaction speed and thinking skill. He shows sympathy to Johnny and prepares to mercy kill him in episode 3 before they get ambushed. He warns Matt, who he did not know was infected in episode 3, about the Blight trying to trick them when they see the Red Demo Man. He gets annoyed when Bread Dolphin ignores his messages about the Blight, with good fucking reason. Goes out of his way to teach people how to escape the Blight, Dolphin being the prime example. And he hates the Blight, calling it a fucking bastard when it tortures Classic. From all of this, we can gather that, personality-wise, Aaron seems to be a generally caring and kind person who will go out of his way to seek revenge and help when necessary, and is a natural quick thinker, enabling him to stand a better chance against the Blight, albeit he gets annoyed when people don't listen, and as I said earlier, rightfully so. Him getting even by helping Bread Dolphin, showing that he genuinely cares about other people. Speaking of Bread Dolphin, I messed that up again, he's the next character to go over. Starting with his appearance on Thunder Mountain in episode 1, this is where he taught Aaron to escape the Blight by running off the map at the start. Aaron very quickly picking up on this later when the Blight chases him after Gilly's suicide. However, Bread too suffers the same feelings of loss later on after Classic is taken in reflection and Directions gets infected in episode 1. However, unlike Aaron, he does not wish to play TF2 again, due to the risk of the creature finding him again after reflection. He has a good sense of strategy, respawning behind an infected to headshot them with the Ambassador and save Aaron while it's reaching for him. But overall as a character, he's a tactical friendly fellow who got fucked over by bad luck and the relentless nature of the Blight. I wish there was more to say on him, but sadly that's about it. Next up we have Hectoron, the medic from episode 3. He appears only once in that said episode and is very clearly a skilled medic player from his gameplay scenes. He also has the classic TF2 casual humour shown by him killbinding. Albeit him not knowing about the Blight and attacking the infected scout for Uber would be his undoing, as this is the moment he gets infected. Outside of that, he's shown to be a supportive friend prior to his infection, as he is willing to help Aaron face the players from episode 1, even calling them script kiddies as he dismisses the risk they pose, for he does not know what awaits him. But even when infected, Matt still maybe has a little piece of him poking through that's kind of slightly in control as the Blight gradually takes over, primarily because he vote kicked Scuba too, albeit this was very likely just part of the Blight's plan the whole time, it doing this to earn his trust. But realistically, Matt was infected when he attacked the scout, he was killed, and now this thing is possessing his body. Anyway, same with how he continues to Uber and heal Aaron after being infected, it's just the Blight putting on a disguise. It's all just another layer to the deception to make him think that this is still Matt. And then there's the reveal later that episode that he was infected the entire time. But anyway, personality-wise, Hector, pre-infection, is shown to be a skilled medic player with balls of steel, albeit they would weigh him down and be his undoing. Moving on from Matt now to go over the main characters of Awareness, which is the final episode as of writing this video. First is Grey Matter. He's clearly an older stoner type guy and he's probably high as fuck during this video too. He's not very good with situational awareness and gets caught off guard by a sniper. Albeit he is caring and supportive of his friends as he teaches Nexos how to play Scout. However, his comment about Nexos playing Fortnite implies they barely know each other. Albeit sadly, he gets spawn countered by the Blight later on after the Grim Jester kills him. He is more or less basically the old man of the group, who is willing to support new players even if he doesn't know them very well. Next is God's God, friend of the other two main characters. He seems to be moderately experienced with TF2 and is willing to help Nexos settle in so he can play comp with Grey Matter. He knows his game modes well and knows that the enemy will defend the intel on CTF probably with sentries. Albeit he just wanted Nexos and Grey Matter to be friends, which is especially heartbreaking considering how he dies. He also sounds to be a similar age to Nexos. He also almost gets infected by the High 5 spy, probably thinking that the taunt was just broken. and he's clearly never seen the Blight before and does not know what it is based off his reactions to it, albeit he sadly gets grabbed out of nowhere and pulled off the bridge, killing him. For all intensive purposes, he is essentially a semi-experienced TF2 player who just happens to run into the Blight. And next, we have Nexos, who is basically a newbie to TF2 and a friend of God's God. He's only played Minecraft before, so he's probably just a kid himself. He runs into the Blight mass entirely by accident and somehow knows about the Blight, saying, "I've seen this before," yet he has no idea what the Blight is. And no, it's not "I've heard this before," specifically it's "I've seen this before." Basically, he's seen this before, yet has no idea what it is, which is a contradiction, which is made worse by him being a new player, meaning he should have no idea this Blight even exists at all. And him saying "I've seen this before and I only play Minecraft" could imply the Blight is not exclusive to TF2, albeit I do not think that is the case because it would make no sense at all. In fact, if I remember correctly, the Blight is bound exclusively to TF2. Emphasis on "if I remember correctly," albeit this will likely be explained and fixed in a future episode. Anyway, he has good intuition, immediately recognizes the taunting soldier is off as his taunt does not match his class, he senses grey matter is infected and avoids the Blight, proceeding to cap the intel which ends the game and saves him. But what's amazing here is the fact that he knew to cap the intel. He doesn't run off and jump into the void, no, he goes to cap the intel, which implies he may have some knowledge of the Blight's existence but doesn't have a complete knowledge on how it operates, which kind of contradicts with the fact that he's a completely new player. But essentially, he's a new player who knows what's up, probably knows more than he lets on, and he has good instincts about avoiding the Blight. Also, during this episode, while all three main characters are going about their business, the Blight is out of sight, infecting the entire enemy team and everyone else, Durf himself actually mentioning this when we was in a VC at one point. But anyway, with those three covered, now to go over the side characters and people who didn't get much screen time before they got infected. First, Gillysuit. All we really see him do is kill himself in episode 1 more or less. Directions dies in episode 1 and gets not much character if none at all. There's Johnny Danny 12 who gets infected in episode 2 and briefly appears in 3 as a lure, ironically his body's shaped like a fish hook. He's also clearly a kid from the way he talks, and his attempts to leave inadvertently teach the Blight how to migrate from server to server. And mistakenly he thinks he's in heaven in episode 3, which shows how innocent and unaware of it all he really is. In summary, for Johnny Danny 12, sadly he was just an innocent kid who just got caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now he's a victim of something infinitely cruel that he could never truly comprehend. Next on the list is Scuba Master 96, who appeared exclusively in episode 3 before getting infected, albeit he displayed great skill as a heavy prior to his infection, given his appearances in the kill feed. In one scene in episode 3, we hear a gunshot prior to Scuba being revealed as infected, which means he likely tried to fight one off only to get turned before they found him, albeit he returns fully infected later in a simulation. Next we have Sirenex, who appears and dies in the simulation, appearing infected again in Reflection and gets shot by Aaron. A simulation being the episode that shows us the Blight having IRL effects and the assimilation process from the victim's perspective. Classic appears in Offline and Reflection but gets infected early on and tortured, albeit Offline is dubiously canon due to it conflicting with Reflection's events, so I'll be ignoring it entirely. However, Classic respects Bread Dolphin's trick stab skills and is friends with him, obviously caring about him given his reaction to Bread Dolphin talking about the messages he's getting. Then we have Million D007, who is really just a background character and a scammer. Headshot Fraudster, who's another side character. That Chernobyl guy, a red sniper taken by the Blight in the puppet story. He exists entirely to show what the Blight does though, is it assimilates, the process being extremely agonizing, slow and cruel. There's I Work at Subway, a spy who falls victim to the Blight in Puppet, and various other infected and side characters who don't particularly matter character-wise because they don't get any dialogue or they're just random infected. And with that, that is every major character in Serverblight up to the point of awareness. Now to cover the themes of the series. When it comes to the themes of Serverblight, there are several that are present and repeat throughout the series. The first and primary one is the horror of the Serverblight itself, the way it stalks, hunts, captures, torments and warps all those it gets its countless hands on as a mere tool to expand itself. The series really shows you the endless cruelty this thing is capable of, which will guarantee get worse the more it progresses. Another theme is deception. It's one of the primary tools used by the Blight to lure in new prey. If anything, that is its bread and butter and is the thing it always defaults to before revealing itself. Weirdly enough, even the human characters like Aaron have deceived a bit, Aaron lying to Bread about not seeing his friend directions, probably just to not upset him, but it also shows that this extends to human characters in part. Next is loss. It's another big one, as it's the primary motivator for Aaron in his quest to stop the Blight from consuming others, and we see the absolute devastation losing Matt did to him. and loss combined with the Blight hunting them is what ultimately makes Brett give up trying to find directions, which is definitely for the best given he's infected. Grief goes in hand with this as we see Aaron mourning in the ending of Reflection. And the nature of reality, more accurately how the Blight alters it, is a theme that's both indirectly and directly expressed through various means. It adding reflections to the water in Reflection, which is fitting given the episode's name, the sniper in Puppet being forcefully dragged into the game and merged with his character, him feeling everything it does as if the sniper was his own body, and the spy in Assimilation seeing his hands become the spies he's playing and the room around him becoming the tunnel, plus the heavy that appears behind said spy. There also seems to be a slight paranormal theme going on as well, given the fact this thing could physically alter reality and perception as well, albeit that appears to be more a general side theme. Speaking of side themes, I may be missing out on some more subtle themes like Aaron likely seeking revenge or community as people seemingly start to learn about the Blight, albeit they play a less pronounced role if they're intentional. And with that, the theme section is concluded. Now I want to talk about something I think Serverblight may have, albeit I am unsure, this is just a theory. I suspect this series has a metaphorical and interpretive layer to it, but as to what exactly I am unsure, however I have a few ideas. First being, I feel that as TF2 gets older and its code remains unmaintained, getting no content, the Blight itself is basically the spaghetti code of TF2 developing what can only be described as a cancer, which is now rampaging through the game's rotting carcass. Or secondly, as the game ages and rots, it's growing spiteful, angry, restless, and is now lashing out any way it can to either force Valve to fix it or put it out of its misery. Because, while the Blight is cruel, maybe it's projecting its own misery onto others, making them suffer so they can feel what it does. Or alternatively, thirdly, it can be symbolic of the nature of the TF2 community and how, despite everything, bots, a lack of content, no maintenance, nothing, it still presses onwards and pulls new people in. From a cynical perspective, one could say it represents the toxic community side of TF2. Or hell, it could represent the community's obsession of being unable to let go of their game as it slowly decays. The grip of nostalgia binding them to its withering corpse. Albeit these are just my theories, assuming the Blight has a metaphorical layer to it at all. So moving on from that, now I need to address several things about the series that may be issues or could be issues in the future. First is the aforementioned Scout a while back, who is a new player having seen this before while he only plays Minecraft, and presumably Fortnite. As to why, it's because this conflicts and is currently not explained, albeit Durf does keep notes on everything plot-wise, so we'll likely get a clarification for this that fixes the conflict. Secondly, the Blight cannot use weapons as mentioned, yet we see a whole team pretend to be uninfected in Assimilation using their weapons, albeit they stop when they start acting weird. So while this seems like a conflict on the surface, it's likely just a further layer to the creature's capacity for deception. Thirdly, because the IRL player dies when assimilated, how long can this go on for before people start to take notice? Because around 50 players in total at the time of writing this are all assimilated, which is less than 0.01% of TF2's player base. This would likely fly under the radar of the TF2 community as a whole. But inevitably, if the Blight keeps growing or people escape it enough, people will eventually take notice. So this is something that needs to be considered for future episodes. Then again, Durf notes down everything, so he'll likely keep track of this. Fourthly, the time frame of the series is inconsistent and poorly conveyed, and Durf has not set out a timeline yet. As to why, the timeline is largely irrelevant, albeit the series is set in 2024 to 25 and each video is uploaded generally around when it's set in universe, so it's partially in real time. And considering each episode is generally a month apart because of the production time, each video can generally be considered a month by month comparison of what the Blight is up to. Another reason as to why this is the case is because Durf hates the lore-centric way of consuming media, as I told you before. So I can see why he would not care about it too much. Albeit, as a writer myself, I feel it's important to have a scale of time so you can get a feeling for how quick something like the Blight is capable of spreading. And for clarification, some people were also confused on what the series is set on, casual or community. It was intended to be in casual from the very start, albeit community servers did end up playing a role. Anyway, from my chats with Durf in voice chat, he clearly has a plan and continuity notes down, so these things that seem like issues now will probably get expanded on or fixed later. Which allows me to talk about the next section of the video, which is the future of Serverblight. A complaint I see a lot about Serverblight is this series become repetitive or formulaic. The monster appears, people don't realize what's going on until it's too late, and the protagonist either escape or die. I saw this a lot in the comments when Durf asked for criticism on a community post, so he will likely expand out somehow, but how exactly I don't know. Lino will still probably be making the music for the series, actually that's pretty much all he does now. And Durf does all the PR now, it taking hours of his mornings to do. but I suspect we'll also see the Blight in future episodes grow in its power. Already, we see the Blight learning in real time as the series progresses, the taunting soldier in awareness using the wrong taunt but imitating one shows that it's figuring out how taunts work, albeit slowly. The spy in that same episode has his high 5 taunt, albeit it's off, it's rigid, there's no taunt bubble or voice lines, and it has a forced smile, which shows the Blight is still learning all the taunts, which will probably take it a while. Its use of voice lines has become more refined as the series progresses. It ambushes the soldier in awareness from below, showing a growing sense of tactics compared to how it blindly chased Aaron in episode 1. And it chases the scout from higher ground as he runs to the intel, trying to get to it before he does as to cut him off. All of which basically means the longer this goes on, the magnitudes deadlier the Blight will become, with each advancement only adding to its capacity for hunting, manipulation and learning. Speaking of such, 50 people are currently infected. One can infect a 100-player server on their own with enough time, so if all 50 were sent to 100-player servers each, that spikes the infection number to 5,000 players. So we are looking at a semi-exponential growth if the Blight dedicates itself to nothing but spreading, albeit it's more like a cumulative growth to be honest. At that kind of rate, a TF2 community would 100% notice it's around, which will lead to IRL consequences. So I have a feeling the Blight in future episodes will intentionally lay low for its own survival, as mindlessly spreading will only doom the creature. And I have a feeling the Blight is following Aaron and previously bred Dolphin between games. By what mechanism I'm unsure, but I have a feeling the Steam's friend list is how, due to Aaron likely not unfriending his infected friend after he got turned in episode 3. Or the creature may have an innate sense of where he is. The innate sense part makes logical sense, given it found him in episode 3 without infecting Matt first, and it found bred Dolphin twice. Albeit there's probably some alternate way it's tracking them, but again, what exactly I don't know. Personally, it could be a mix of the Steam's friend list system, or hell, maybe it just has their profile open on an alternate tab and it's just tracking them that way. Albeit why it would choose to track a specific individual over just spreading generally, I don't know. Possibly the creature having some form of tunnel vision and hyperfixating on a specific target who it feels has pissed it off. I don't know, the creature's incomprehensible, so maybe we'll find out in a future episode, maybe we won't. But anyway, with that, I want to conclude the future section and move on, but also want to personally thank the 2 idiot Germans for sharing my land with the No Man creepypasta. Thank you guys. They absolutely loved it, so go check it out. Also go check out Serverblight, it is absolute fucking kino. But anyway, aren't you glad this video was not just ADHD brain rot yapping about the thing 1982 and having to re-explain the same SCP creepypasta crap 8 times in 30 minutes, while simultaneously yapping and waffling about the lore of TF2 which is entirely unrelated to Serverblight as a whole, or forcing in memes every 12 seconds and getting sidetracked for several minutes at a time by entirely unrelated crap with unnecessary levels of exposition? I sure am, because I don't make slop! I don't dump barrels full of septic waste into pig troughs so the bad piggies may gorge themselves! This is why anytime a bunch of animals rule in one place, it is called a zoo. Well, unless it's a farm. But yeah, outside of that, if you like this kind of in-depth analysis, I suggest you subscribe and enable notifs. Also, if you have anything you want to say about my analysis, or have your own, do comment below. I really want to hear what you have to say about Serverblight. In fact, I'd like to get a discussion going, because I'm very curious what everyone else has to say. Anyway, now for the final section, my honest thoughts on Serverblight summarized. In my opinion, Serverblight is a fantastic horror series. It has a fascinating premise and great potential. The horror and writing are really well done, albeit I feel some characterization is necessary, especially for main characters like Aaron. I feel he's a tad flat, but otherwise fairly good. I see the series going fantastic places, albeit it needs to start expanding soon, or else it will get stuck in a slog of formulaic shallow plots, stagnant and unchanging, followed by people inevitably growing bored and leaving, the series getting forgotten. What I'm saying here is, it's great, it has a lot of potential, but it needs to branch out and refine itself more. Other than those complaints, it's absolutely splendid and certainly worth watching. In fact, it's worth rewatching, especially if you love horror, or body horror mainly. And with that, I conclude this section, bringing us to the actual end of the video. As I asked, comment, subscribe, they're both great, likes would be nice too. And with that, I say goodbye. See you next time. Thanks for blighting by. Also gonna leave a little note here, post-recording. Keep in mind, everything I said in here may be subject to change, so if I end up making mistakes and this is all like shown to be wrong in future episodes, keep in mind this was built off the knowledge we had at the time. Anyway, thanks for blighting by.